Eight genders spoken about in the Talmud. I can think of four. Hmm. It depends what we're classifying a gender as. What were those eight?
Let's see. Let me see if I can.
Usually there's male, female, both, and none. I mean, not none, but we don't know which. Um, in the words of the Mishnah, Zachar Nekeva is male and female, and androgynous. I don't know what you call that in English, but a person who has both features of a man and a woman.
Yeah, well, they used to call them hermaphrodites, but now they call them. What do they call them now? I forget the word now, but it used to be called hermaphrodites.
Uh,
Um,
is it a common thing?
hmm?
Is it a common thing?
Well, I mean, it depends on what you call common. No, it's not that common, but I mean, it does happen.
Does happen.
Yeah, they have both sets of genitals.
Right. And then there's apparently some
Uh,
kind of a condition where, I mean, I never really researched this, but in the Mishnah it speaks about someone who has like that whole area is covered with like a lot of fat or skin or something, and it's not possible to tell unless there's a surgery. I think it's covered by skin, the genital area, and so it's not possible to see if the person has male or female genitalia, and therefore they're their own category. We're not sure. Could be that a person will get a surgery and will find out that they're male, or will get a surgery and find out that they're female.
okay. Here's the AI version. The idea that the Talmud recognizes eight genders is a modern interpretation based on ancient rabbinic texts that describes seven.
Oops, I'm sorry, I lost you. You there?
These descriptions are found about in discussions about Jewish law and legal responsibilities, but they are not presented as modern concepts of gender identity. The eight categories of rabbinic texts: one is a car, a person who is biologically male; two, Nebuchadnezzar, a person who is biologically female; Androgynous, a person with both male and female sexual characteristics, which used to be called hermaphrodite; Tum Tum, a person whose sexual characteristics are indeterminate or obscured; Alonit Hama, a person assigned female at birth who naturally develops male characteristics later in life; six, Alonit Adam, a person who is assigned female at birth who develops male characteristics through
It's an
human
interesting way to
intervention.
explain it. I was thinking of maybe saying that, but so an islandist is someone who an islandist is a female, and then I guess you have the male version of that as well. So an islandist is a female who is female, but is not able to get birth, does not grow breasts, and does have certain male characteristics, but the actual genitalia are female genitalia. And so that could either happen um, by nature, but that's the way God made them, or it could happen by a person doing this to them. Yeah.
If you Google this phrase, eight genders in Talmud, you'll come up with what I'm reading.
Yeah, no, I think I know what you're talking about. Um, so after the islandess Adam and islandess Chama, what was the
Okay. Well, Al Adam, a person who is assigned female at birth who develops male characteristics through human intervention. I was a sex change. A person,
So it's not
Sarah,
actually a sex change because the genitalia remain the same. It's just that either hormonally or through castration or stuff like that, that they do not fully develop the typical female characteristics.
yeah, but the person assigned that female at birth who develops male characteristics through human intervention.
Right. So I mean, we can look at the way
So that penis
Maimonides
has to,
speaks
so
about
in
this or
other
Jewish
words,
law, but it's not talking about an actual change of the genitals. It's talking about the other aspects.
what other aspects?
For example, the way the hair looks, the way the body figure, the way the voice sounds.
Seven, Saras Hama, the person assigned male at birth who naturally develops female characteristics,
So it's
or is,
like an oversimplification of it to say that it's female characteristics, but it's versus someone who's been castrated. So either they were born unable to have children, or it was done by human intervention that they were castrated. But there are certain characteristics. I don't know. It makes it sound different when you use the word male characteristics or female characteristics. You know what? Why don't we do this? Let me share the screen. We'll pull up Maimonides about
okay.
this.
And
And
number eight, a person assigned male at birth who was rendered infertile through human intervention, or a eunuch.
right, so let's do. Is you able to see my screen?
Uh, yeah, six gender, yeah,
So
the six, I had eight.
because there's the islandess and the saris could happen either naturally or through human intervention. So it's counting it the same, but where's the Rambam's definition? Why is this so zoomed in?
Transgender, that's, I think, the term for what used to be called hermaphrodite.
Okay, here. So the following are the physical signs of barrenness. She lacks protruding breasts. She stiffens during relations. Her lower abdomen does not resemble a woman. Her voice is deep and cannot be differentiated from that of a man. So that those are the male characteristics that we were talking about. And then over here, when we get to the male, these are the signs of impotency. One lacks a beard. Their hair grows inadequately. Flesh is hairless. The urine doesn't produce vapor. Um, the urine does not flow in an arc. His semen is off color. His urine does not ferment. When he washes in the winter, his flesh does not produce steam. His voice is high pitched and cannot be differentiated from that of a woman. So when we talk about male characteristics, we're talking about things, it sounds more hormonal than actual physical changes of that nature. So this is someone they're both biologically male and both biologically female, but they will never be able to bear children, and so they have their own category as it pertains to certain laws. The way they wrote that in the thing that you're reading sounded like it was male characteristics, meaning of the
But
gender.
it was AI
Right.
that wrote it, so
Fair enough.
yeah.
Anyways, thank you for looking into that.
Actually, I just happened to come across it by accident, going through. I don't know what I was going through.
Right.
Stuff on stuff. I get stuff on feed from various sources about the Talmud. You know,
Right.
Like,
Okay, dokie. Where were we up to? Okay. In connection with the various halachot with regard to breaking bread, especially on festivals, which is what we were talking about, the Gemara recites another halacha. Rabbi Abba said that on Shabbos one is obligated to break bread for the meal over 2 loaves. Okay, Zalman, did you ever wonder why do we break bread over 2 loaves on Shabbos?
I never noticed that we did.
We always have 2 loaves on Shabbos. So the reason is because we want to remember the manna that came from heaven. The manna did not fall on Shabbos. The manna fell twice on Friday. And to remember this double portion, we break bread over a double portion on Shabbos. So let's read that inside. What is the reason? Because in the Torah portion that discusses gathering of the manna on Friday for Shabbos, the phrase twice as much bread is written. To commemorate this, Shabbos meals are based on 2 loaves of bread. With regard to the manner in which these 2 loaves are to be broken, Rav Ashi said, I saw Rav Kahana, who would take 2 loaves and break one. Rabbi Zera would break off one large piece from the loaf and eat from it the entire Shabbos meal. Ravina said to Rav Ashi, doesn't this appear gluttonous for one to break off so large a piece? And Rav Ashi said to him, since every other day he does not do so, and today he does, it does not appear gluttonous, but rather in deference to the mitzvah of the Shabbos meals. You could see from the way I eat the rest of the week that I ain't no glutton. With regard to eating on Shabbos, the Gemara relates Rav Ami and Rav Asi, when the opportunity to use the bread of the Eruv in the Shabbos meal would present itself, they would recite the blessing over that loaf of bread. Are you familiar with the concept of Eruv?
Sounds familiar. Is is that the one about giving it to the priest?
No, that's not the one about
No.
giving it to the priest. It's the I don't know why I wrote this
Oh, that
down.
thing. Yeah,
The strings.
right. The string around the island of Manhattan, and that's right.
Exactly. So why do we have these strings? What function do these strings hold?
To find the community, it's the boundary, so that you're not supposed to leave the you're not supposed to leave the shadow, and the Arab uh, marks off the boundaries of the modern day shadow, something like that.
Very close and very good. So there's 2 things. One of them is the distance that we're allowed to walk on Shabbos. I think we've discussed that here in the past.
Right.
But about the boundaries is that on Shabbos we're not allowed to carry anything. We're not allowed to carry anything from one house to another. So what the Eruv does is the Eruv puts a fence around the entire city. So now the entire city is one entity, one courtyard, and within a courtyard you're allowed to carry from one place to the next. Now, in addition to having just one courtyard, you actually need to all share a meal. So today, the way it's done is that the rabbi does this on behalf of the community and puts aside usually a matzah in a special place and makes a special blessing over it. And now the entire community is joined on this matzah, and that matzah becomes the matzah of the Eruv. But it could be any kind of a meal. There's a whole section in Maimonides, and we'll get to it later as well. There's an entire tractate called the Tractate of Eruvs. So after this one, we're going to get to the Tractate of Shabbos. After Shabbos, we're going to get to the Eruv one. So the mitzvah of Eruv is the communal meal that enables everyone to now share with each other. The string of the Eruv is a technicality that you can't share a meal with each other if you're living in different entity in different spaces. So the string is to make that the entire village should be considered one entity. And then we have this meal, this shared meal that anyone can come and partake of, which is the shared meal that allows us to now carry to each other's houses because we all join together in a meal. So if they had the bread of this meal and they were able to use it, they would use this bread of the Eruv meal as their bread that they would break. And they said in explanation, since one mitzvah was performed with this bread, we'll perform another mitzvah with it.
When did the Eruv come into use?
Um,
Shane? Because it seems kind of, I mean, if you're going to put the string around the entire island of Manhattan, then couldn't you just say that pretty much anything is a border? I mean, if you're in Australia, which is surrounded by water, couldn't you say that all the oceans are the Eruv, and
it's a good question. It's a
that the
very good
entire
question.
continent of Australia is contained within the Eruv of the Pacific and Indian Oceans and whatever they are?
It's a very, very good question. Um, the answer is that there are rules as to what can be considered um, an area and what cannot. There are certain things that preclude a an area from being made around it, and we're gonna learn that later. But the short answer is that if there are lakes, I'm pretty sure if there are lakes of a certain size within the area, you cannot make an Eruv around it. So to have the entire continent would not work. But if you had, let's say, a gated community that has a gate around three sides and a canal on the fourth side, the bank of the canal could, in certain circumstances, be used as the fourth wall.
Well, isn't there an Eruv around the entire island of Manhattan?
Around the entire island of Manhattan, that's a very good question,
I
and I don't
think
know the answer.
I remember reading something about that.
The reason why I'm not sure is because if there is what's considered a public domain of biblical proportion, what is a public domain of biblical proportion? Is any thoroughfare which is 16 cubits wide. That would be times 1.5 is what's 1.5 times 16 is 24. 24 feet wide throughway, which is not too wide. And this throughway, if this throughway has 600,000 people passing through it each day, then that is considered a public domain of biblical proportion and cannot be included in an Eruv. I believe there are some parts of Manhattan that would fit that criteria, wouldn't there be?
Well, there is. I mean, you could drive around the entire perimeter of. I mean, there are connecting highways along. You can drive around Manhattan on the edges of the rivers. You know, the FDR on the east side, the Paris Hudson Parkway on the west side, and over the edge at the tip and bottom, there's connecting. I mean, you can circle Manhattan by car.
Interesting.
And certainly more than 24 feet, and certainly more than 600,000 people using it.
Welcome to the Manhattan Eruv. Begun in 1999 as a local Eruv on the Upper West Side, the Manhattan Eruv now encloses most of the borough of Manhattan. The Eruv, built and supervised by the Machon LaHaraya in Monsey, has been endorsed and supported by local rabbis and community leaders. It allows countless number of Jews throughout the borough to carry and push baby carriages on Shabbos, therefore enhancing both the observance and enjoyment of the holy day. This website serves as a portal to the Manhattan Eruv. It features an announcement each Friday about the status of the Eruv. Our Eruv has never been down, but still make sure to check each week. Because if the Eruv, one of the wires falls down, then you have a big problem. It also provides an interactive map identifying an often confusing Eruv boundaries. Finally, the website provides opportunity to contribute to support the continued maintenance of the Eruv. Please note, due to construction, the not on 9 and 10th Avenue between 20 and 22nd Street are not in the Eruv until further notice. Last checked on 9/4. Over here, we can see which parts are in the Eruv and which parts are not. So, are you familiar with this area?
Oh, sure.
Okay. So it looks like the FDR is not in the Eruv.
Well, the FDR is just a highway.
Right. So the highways are not in the Eruv, but what's this
But,
big
nobody walks on the highway.
right. This big park over here
That's Central Park.
is Central Park. So the yellow is what's not in the Eruv. I wonder why they have that like that.
Okay, well,
But is there
this
no
looks
road
like,
over here that would have 600,000 people on it?
pardon?
Is there no road within here? Like, what are the yellow parts? Are they busier areas?
Uh, no, well, this part here, 1111th Street and Park Avenue. I
Mm-hmm.
mean, that's Harlem.
Okay, well, that would explain why they don't need an Eruv there.
Yeah. Second Avenue, 42nd Street.
What would you say
Okay.
is the
Well, that's
busiest
the
area
United
over here?
Nations. That's the United Nations area on the bottom there, 42nd, here where it says Second Avenue.
Okay.
That's the
I see it
United
says United
Nations.
Nations.
Yeah. Uh, okay. This area on the other side here, 42nd, that's, well, that's where the tunnel, Holland Tunnel is. And, well, it used to be where the porno, all the porno is and prostitutes. They're not there anymore, but we used to call it Animal Alley.
Mm.
uh, what's there, 14th Street? Okay, that's the new High Line underneath. Well, they made it into a big park. It used to be an elevated subway, and now recently they made it into a big park. So I guess that's why it's included.
Got it. So in this map, what would you say would be the busiest area?
Well, it depends on what day of the week. I mean,
Like where,
42nd.
like downtown Manhattan,
Well,
or
sure, downtown Manhattan further. I mean, 42nd, around 42nd Street, Times Square. That's always busy.
so where's Times
Downtown,
Square?
42nd Street, right there. You
42nd
know,
Street and what corner?
uh, basically between, you know, Fifth and say Ninth Avenue,
Between
this
5th
area.
and 9th Avenue. So this area
Yeah,
over here.
but
And
that's
now
tourist. That's tourist area. Uh,
Bryant Park is right around there.
yeah, Bryant Park. That might be
And you have
Bryant
here the
Park.
Rockefeller Center. So
Yeah.
would you say that any of these roads would have 600,000 people a day?
Oh yeah, coming tourists. And then if you go further south, there's a financial district, right?
Okay.
And a lot of Jews there, a lot of Jews on Wall Street and all that. And that's you know,
Where's Wall
right.
Street?
Wall Street is I can think is kind of about where you are now.
Right around here somewhere?
Yeah, a little bit further south.
A little bit
Yeah,
further
right
south.
around there.
Okay.
And that's you know,
So so this is one thing. Let's see what's this other Washington Heights. It looks like some people made their own.
okay, Washington Heights, yeah. That's
Washington
that's the
Heights is in Manhattan.
Yeah, that's the most northern part of Manhattan. Yeah, there used to be a lot of Jews living there too. That was a evolution. I don't know if it still is, but there was at one time. I had a cousin who lived up there.
I'm looking to see, I'm curious, who is this place that, who are the people who, the Orthodox synagogue in Muncie, New York, it says.
Muncie, I don't know. I've heard of
Muncie.
Muncie.
Interesting. So they're the ones who put their approval, their rabbinic approval on the Manhattan Arrow. Um, 33 kilometers long. Okay. Oh, here. KJ. Let's see this one. Because I know some of the people.
Yeah, but it has about 20 miles long and about 2 miles wide at its widest point.
Okay, anyways, before we get too sidetracked. Yeah, so that is interesting. And I guess well when we get to that, we'll understand it better. So this is kind of how the Talmudic discussions went as well. This was a very side point, but then we got all involved into the laws of the Eruv because that's what came up, and now we go back into the discussion. We have now finished page 39b. Let us tackle 40a. Okay, now we're going to continue discussing the halachas of breaking bread. Rav said, one who broke bread and before eating it offered a piece to another and said, take it and recite a blessing. Take it and recite a blessing. So what happened here? We need a little bit of background information. Between making a blessing and doing a mitzvah, you're not allowed to make an interruption. And if you do make an interruption, you need to make a new blessing. For example, if a person made a blessing over an apple and then started speaking with their friend about what time it is, the blessing and the eating of the apple are no longer connected with each other because he interrupted between them. So the question is over here, what happens if you're slicing the bread and then before you took a bite of it, right? If you're slicing the bread means you already made the blessing. But before taking a bite of it, you offered a piece to someone else and you said, here, come take the blessing. Take it and make a blessing. So in that scenario, says Rav, he need not recite the blessing a second time because what he was doing is considered to be for the purpose of the blessing. You're encouraging someone else to make a blessing. That's not an interruption. That's part of the same thing. However, if he said, bring salt or bring relish, so now he has to already make the blessing a second time because that is considered an interruption between the blessing and eating the bread. However, Rabbi Yochanan said, no. Even if you say, bring the salt or bring the relish, that is not an interruption. You do not need to recite the blessing a second time because you have to dip the salt. You have to dip the bread in salt. You want to eat the bread with relish. So saying, bring the salt, bring the relish is part and parcel of eating the bread. However, only if you said mix food in the oven, mix food for the mix the food for the oxen. I don't know why I read oven there. Mix the food for the oxen, then that would be considered an interruption. And you would be required to recite a new blessing. Why would the person be telling someone else to mix the food for the oxen? Why would he be saying mix the food for the oxen before he eats his food?
Well, you're supposed to feed your animals before you eat yourself.
Very good, Talmud. That's exactly the answer. Rav Shesha says, no, no, no. Even if he said mix for the oxen, he need not recite a blessing a second time, as that is also considered to be for the purpose of the blessing.
But
As
the
Rabbi Yehuda
relish,
said, sorry?
the salt, you said eat the salt and the relish is part and parcel of the bread, but it's really not. You can eat the bread without it.
So you could eat the bread without it, but it's still considered for the purpose of the bread.
It's not a necessary
Meaning,
purpose.
it's not a necessary purpose, but it's not enough. It's not ADHD enough. Sorry, for lack of, it's not what's the word I'm looking for?
A luxury?
It's not removed enough from the action that we're doing now to consider it an interruption.
Mixing the food for the oxen. That's required.
That is required, true. Dipping
The
your bread into
salt is
salt
not
is
required. The
dipping the bread
salt
into
is
salt
not
is required.
required. Therefore, the salt is an interruption because it's not required.
The salt is required. You have to dip the bread into salt. The
But you
relish
don't
is
have to
not
dip the
required.
no, you don't have to dip the bread with the salt. You can eat the bread without salt.
In theory, you could, but the best way to do it, you're supposed to dip the bread into salt.
Okay.
Oh, I just want to also take a moment to thank Hashem. I don't know if you saw what happened in Qatar this morning.
No, what happened?
Israel bombed some building in Qatar and eliminated various Hamas officials that were operating from Qatar.
Mm,
So thank you, Hashem, and may we see an end to all the evil.
amen.
The question is what we're trying to figure out, and I hear what you're saying when it comes to the relish. That why is that considered for the bread? And the answer that I would give is that it's you're not removing your mind from the concept of eating. You want to eat this bread. You don't want to eat the bread plain. You want to eat the bread with some kind of a condiment or the herring or whatever it is. And so you're asking them to bring it to the table. Trying to think of a good example. That'll take me too long to come up with it, but what's the game called Taboo that you have to describe a certain object or person or some kind of it. You have to describe a noun, and there's a list of words that you're not allowed to use in your description.
I've heard of the game Taboo, but I have no idea how it's played or what it is.
I think that's how it works. I think that you have to describe, or maybe it's Malarkey. I don't remember. One of these games. There's a game that you have to describe something, but there are certain words you're not allowed to use. Wait, why was I going there? In my mind this made sense. I had a train of thought. I digress. I'm sorry. It didn't end up working out. Okay. So Rav Yehuda said that Rav said one is prohibited from eating before feeding their animals, as it is stated, I will give grass in your fields for your animals. That's the first blessing. So the first part of the verse. And then the second half of the verse says, and you shall eat and be satisfied. In the verse, the preparation of food for one's cattle precedes preparation of his own food, and consequently it is considered part of the preparation for one's own meal. Oh, okay. So over here we see Rava Bar Shmuel said in the name of Rabbi Chia that one who breaks bread is not permitted to break it until they bring salt or relish before each and every one seated at the table. So here that would be the reason why you would say bring the relish or bring the salt, because he said that it's not permitted to break the bread until the salt and relish is in front of everyone. So according to that opinion, you would be allowed to say bring the salt, bring the relish, because it's not considered an interruption. You can't move forward with the proceedings until that comes. However, the Gemara relates a story that Rav Bar Shmuel, who's the one who quoted this law in the name of Rabbi Chia himself, happened to be at the house of the exilarch. The exilarch was the Ark of the Exile, the Jewish leader of exile. They brought him bread, which he immediately broke without waiting for them to bring salt or relish. They said to him, 1 second, did you consider your halachic ruling? Aren't you the one who told us that we're not allowed to break bread until they bring salt and relish? He said to them, although poor quality bread requires salt in order to give the bread flavor, and therefore one must wait before breaking bread, this refined bread served in the house of the exilarch needs no salt and one does not require waiting. Because over here we're talking about the finest of all breads, it can be eaten plain. What? And Rava Bar Shmuel said in the name of Rabbi Chia, who is this Rava Bar Shmuel? Okay, because we're already quoting one rule that he said, that Rava Bar Shmuel said in the name of Rabbi Chia, we also said another ruling that we heard from Rava Bar Shmuel in the name of Rabbi Chia. And he says like this: urine only completely leaves the body if one urinates seated, as otherwise, due to concern that drops of urine will drip onto his clothes, he attempts to conclude prematurely. Therefore, if you want to completely empty your bowels, you should sit down when you urinate. Rav Kahana said, over loose soil, which absorbs the urine, one is not concerned that it will splash on him or his clothes. Therefore, even when standing, the urine leaves the body. And if there is no loose soil, there is another way to prevent the urine from splashing on his clothes while standing. Can stand on an elevated place and urinate down an inclined plane, or you can go to a modern bathroom that has a urinal and you don't have to worry about getting splashed on. Parenthetically, a friend of mine has a sister and brother-in-law who they run a synagogue, and the synagogue is right next to their house, and so the parishioners are always in and out of their house. So their little boys, when it's time to toilet train them, instead of toilet training them inside the house, they take them outside because they don't want any of their fancy guests coming and finding a splattered and splashed up toilet. So they teach their little kids to go outside. I'm not judging whether they should or shouldn't do this. I'm just telling you the story because I think you'll find the end of it funny. And they they would go outside in the bushes. They would teach them how to, do it in a way that's not, they're not exposing their whole body. And they would go outside to the bushes, and that was how they taught their kids to urinate. Anyways, it was one Hanukkah, and they had a huge Hanukkah event in the park. And then all of a sudden, someone comes running over to the rabbi, says, "Rabbi, your son is urinating on the Christmas tree. What is going on here?" The kid didn't realize what's this, what's that. He knows that he goes to the trees. He went to the trees. Today, thank God, we have urinals and we don't have to worry about getting, where we're going to urinate. But in those days, when they did have to, it was important to understand the location where they were to make sure that they wouldn't get splashed on.
Well, actually, if you are vertically challenged like myself, urinals are not good because you're too close and it splashes back. That's why I always use the toilet.
So it does splash back. Do the
If
do the
you're
little the most places have like a smaller urinal, a lower
or the
one as well,
child's
no?
one, or use the child's one if
Right,
there is one. Yeah.
if there's one.
one of the considerations.
Okay, tomorrow's class, we have another good one coming up. And where is this? The right approach, curses and blessings in the Torah that we have in this week's Torah portion, the curses and the blessings. Which one comes first? A guide to healthy relationships and positive influence. See you tomorrow, God willing, at 11 a.m. Wishing
Okay.
you a wonderful rest of your day.
Thank you. Have a good day.